What's going on, my dear brothers and sisters? Welcome to yet another episode of The Study of Stuff. Just wanted to make a quick little announcement. We recently launched our record label, Spoon Records, the very first Orthodox record label. We will be announcing our official first release, which will be on vinyl, 45. On one side will be a Father Turbo track, unreleased, and a Justin Marler track, unreleased. You can find out more about that just by following us on all the places to follow us. But let's talk about this episode real quick. Okay, so I wanted to have a conversation about Orthodox Christianity and music, culture, those types of things. Who better to have on than Neil DeGraide from Dirt Poor Robins, Justin Marler, Punk to Monk, and Father Turbo Koals. Now, I thought the difficult part was going to be trying to get all our schedules lined up and book it. That seemed to be easy. The difficult part was dealing with the internet gremlins or spiritual warfare. I'm not really sure how to put this, but 10 minutes in, everything's going great. All of a sudden, Justin's computer, boom, gone. He's gone. Boom. We don't know where he is. So myself, Neil, and Father Turbo carry on a conversation, a private conversation, and really interesting stuff came up in that conversation. Look at that, I can't even get my words out. If you want to check that out, you have to join School. We have that as exclusive content. It's like being a fly in the wall in a room where you get to hear this really interesting conversation. You'll find out more about that if you keep watching this episode. Also, those gremlins attacked Father Turbo's computer as well at one point, because all of a sudden his computer started going all wonky. But luckily enough, thank God, he jumped back on and he was able to answer some really interesting questions I had for him. Neil's answers were also remarkable and fantastic and great. I'm sure you guys will enjoy this episode. Watch it all the way through. Anyways, here's the episode. Word to Big Bird. All right. Welcome to the Study of Stuff podcast, where we try to bring back and reinvigorate the old, almost dying art of conversation. And with me today, I have a fantastic panel. I'm blessed to have a great conversation with these three fine gentlemen. With me is Father Turbo Koals, Neil DeGraide, and Justin Marler. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us.
I'm really excited for this conversation. I think it's perfect timing. I think we need it today in the world that we live in. I think that there's a lot of focus on a lot of noise out there. I think this kind of brings down the noise a bit and also helps us have a conversation that helps a lot of artists that are out there. I get a lot of questions from musicians and different types of artists all around. How should they approach music? How should they approach art in general after coming to the faith? And I think that's a fair question. It's a question I've had on my mind a lot. I've talked about it a lot on my show. And I know you guys all have had a background in many forms of art. Father Turbo, musician, artist, iconographer, and the list is so immense. I'll just keep it to those three. Neil DeGraide, musician as well. He does everything. He's pretty DIY. He does everything that that Dirt Poor Robins puts out, from the music, the visuals you see, the sound engineering. Justin Marler, Punk to Monk, musician, author, artist of all types, and has a very deep-rooted background in trying to go from secular to Orthodox in terms of how he presents his art. So, did I miss anything, gentlemen? Anything on the list that I might have missed? I
don't think so.
Sounds good.
Okay. So if I could get you guys one by one, starting with Neil to Justin to Father Turbo, maybe a bit of a background on how you approached your art before, coming into contact with Orthodoxy, how things may have changed, and, anywhere you want to go with that. Neil?
Sure. Yeah. I'll go first. So I grew up in I'll keep the bio part short. I grew up in a family of almost entirely musicians, both sides. of my family. My parents were both in entertainment, and so were my grandparents on both sides. So it was I was kind of made to be like a carny folk kid, whether they meant to or not. They tried all the traditional schooling things, but I seemed to be only interested in creating things. For really, in a big part, for like to see them myself. It wasn't until I got older where I actually went out and performed before people, and you could get a response back from them. So that at the time I wasn't a Christian, and it was a really big part of my identity. It was like, oh, this is a way to like get attention. This is a positive way to get girls, if you want to even go that direction. So yeah, that's kind of where I was at as a teenager. And the thing that happened to me was very strange. So there was a band I was listening to, Striper was one of the bands, and a couple of other like evangelical bands that weren't quite as good, like Petra, and some of those bands, and they were just part of like the diet of what I was listening to. I wasn't singling them out. I wasn't even taking the spiritual part of the message seriously. The problem was, as I was blossoming as a musician from the time I was about 14, every time I sat down to write a song, I would start writing Christian lyrics, and I had no idea why. Like everything was like almost like praise or something higher about the end of the world or something apocalyptic, and I couldn't avoid it. And simultaneously, I had after this, I remember thinking in my head, I was having this weird battle with this idea that I wanted to sing about Christ in music, and I wasn't even a church kid. Like I grew up Catholic, and so this was always kind of haunting me. And I remember walking home from school one day and being like, "Oh, you should totally do this. This would, your music would be more meaningful." And I was like, "Where the heck are these thoughts coming from?" It was almost like a positive, intrusive thought to a degree. So anyway, I became like a born again Christian in my teenage years. I'd grown up Catholic, and instantly was thrust into the music world where well-meaning people were kind of putting me forward ahead of my character because of maybe talent or something they saw or some kind of potential or what it meant for them. So it was quite a struggle for me for years. I spent years actually recording in the Christian music industry. Our band has never been like a Christian band. We were on a secular label, and we've always been doing, we wouldn't say secular music at all. Like, I mean, our music makes no effort to avoid the bigger subjects. But anyway, so when we did that, I really got into typology along the way. I found that there was like this weird power in typology. I didn't know what it meant. A lot of people didn't talk about these things in Protestant circles, but anytime I was asked to teach or preach or something like that, it was always typological. I just thought it was things I was seeing, and I was always sort of taken aback by the fact that other people they were suspicious of those type of insights, even though over time I found those insights to be, like most of them anyway. There are some weird ones I had, but most of them seem to be pretty traditional and like the ancient insights about the gardens, the patterns, fig leaves, the heavens and the earth, all these symbolic patterns. So eventually when I started getting into Jonathan Peugeot around 2017, that's, I think, when it clicked what we were trying to do all along. And it was this, I was always into reenchantment films. I wanted to see, I wanted to believe there was more than just mere science, in that the world actually had some kind of there was some agency in the world that was affecting us, and these patterns were meaningful. And then beyond that, I think the thing that really clicked once I started engaging Orthodox content was this notion that faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the substance of things not yet seen. And that took on a different meaning to me, not just about these invisible things, but that everything we see, that there was a way to look at it and see the logos within it and see how everything, in some way, if you had the eyes to see it, was liturgically pointing towards God. And that's where I think everything kind of clicked for me as a songwriter, where I felt like I was more hit or miss before. It was like, oh, I felt like I'd been narrowed down into the thing, more of it something like I was made to do. I don't know, this rant is meaningful to anyone, but it's honest at the very least. So
It's great.
And Justin, how about yourself?
Yeah, I found my dad's guitar in the closet when I was probably 12 or 13. Started learning U2 songs because they're simple, really stupid simple. And created a punk band in high school, went to the Bay Area, got into punk and metal bands down there. My dream was to, record a record, and I was able to fulfill that dream in a band that I was in down there, sort of a metal-ish band. And the whole time, I didn't realize that my worldview was actually music. It was being shaped by music, and it was music. I can articulate that now, but back then, I didn't really see it that way. I saw music as a weird commodity also. I saw it as a spiritual thing, as something that deeply affected me, like dangerously. Like I would listen to music and it would cause me to want to kill myself, and I'd listen to other music and it would make me really happy. And I saw that, but I didn't understand it fully. But I also saw, like I said, music as a commodity, and it's a weird commodity in that it's not a tangible thing. Like you buy other things and you have them. Music is something that you buy nowadays digitally, and even vinyl. You buy a groove in a piece of plastic, and it shapes how you think and see the world. And what I found when I was about 19, I was recording a record, this dark album with this metal band. It was causing me tremendous suicidal ideation. And I know the music was a component of that, but it was also me just being lost. And so I was going through despair, and I was cutting myself and writhing on the floor, praying basically, God, show me how to get out of this. Show me what I should do before I take my own life. And soon thereafter, I ran into a nun and went into a monastery and spent 7 years there. And in that context, I found music differently. The head of the monastery encouraged me to write music acoustically, so I did a bunch of acoustic songs as a monk, basically, which was kind of odd. It was odd for me. It was odd for everyone around in the monastery. Left the monastery after 7 years, re-entered music, and then my relationship with music got complex. I went through recording more records, doing secular music that has spiritual bend to it. And then I realized recently in the last several years that I just need to shed music altogether. So I haven't actually picked up a guitar and played in about a year because I have a hand problem that prohibits me from actually playing music. I just had surgery for that a couple days ago. But I found that, like with everything in my journey, and doesn't apply to everybody, it's just me, I just need to keep kind of leaving worldliness behind, and my love for music is pretty great. And it's part of kind of weaning off for me. So that's kind of where I'm at and where I've come from.
Beautiful. How about you, Father Turbo?
Wow. Well, I mean, first of all, I hate to be that guy, but it's incredible hearing these stories. It's incredible. Music for me started off. Well, I think actually music started off for me in the one sense. I grew up. My dad owned a record store.
Oh, cool.
And so I grew up with music being played all the time. And is that me? That sound? That crackling? What is that?
I'm not sure.
I hear it too. Who doesn't hear it?
I hear it.
Yeah.
I hear
I
it.
think, yeah. Manny, do you know what that crackling sound is? Is that on our end or someone's? It's okay. I can edit this out.
Communicate to us. They're landing.
I'm leaving that in.
It's getting worse. Yeah.
They're trying
Manny?
to come through.
You know what? Pull someone. Oh, check.
Because
not
your leader.
Since we're live, I'll just do visually entertaining things. Because my dad grew up on the radio, and I'm afraid of dead airspace. So we'll have to just keep the kids involved somehow.
This is gonna make for some good highlight reels for sure for the paid content. You know what, Manny? I think it might be Justin's end. Manny concurs.
Yeah, Justin's connection's bad.
Here's the part where Justin's computer went. Turns out he lost power in the house. And here's a trailer for the conversation that we had. That's exclusive content on School. Link is in the description if you want to join School. There's other exclusive content in there too. I'll tell you about that at the end. Word to Big Bird. So Father and the Guys.
Father and the Guys, though, it sounds like we just started our first collab band.
It's okay.
Look at that scar.
It's okay.
Look at that scar.
He's so hardcore.
That should be an album cover right there.
What are your instruments you play?
In that one, the last time I played with somebody, I played with my sons, which is like a highlight of my life.
But I'm trying to do more live records. AI's everywhere, and it's starting to drive me nuts. I want to do a very Orthodox record, but I want to get an Orthodox drummer, and I don't know one yet.
Oh, Orthodox drummer, Buck Johnson.
Yeah. Buck plays? No way.
Oh, yeah.
I never cared about playing fast just to play fast, but I always wanted to be able to do it if it was required. So for me, it was always a composition. And I already like some of Prince's stuff. Yeah, so Prince got me here. Eddie Van Halen was, yeah, sure. He had some kind of wild energy. Yngwie Malmsteen, Randy Rhoads.
I grew up listening to a lot of soul and funk. Like my dad owned a record store, gospel, post-punk, and goth. The Clash, Pistols, and like post-punk stuff like PIL, New Order. Joy Division. Later on, I got really into Stax.
Justin lost power? Like in the house?
I like Father Turbo. I'll keep talking to him. It's great.
Yeah, he's all right.
It's funny when I met Jay. He was just like, "Oh, you're kind of a brawler."
Jay Dyer?
Yeah, he's like,
yeah.
"I thought I could take you, but
no."
Yeah.
Yeah, Jay seems like he's scrappy in a bar fight. You know what I mean? If you just needed someone for some backup, he could be a good third.
No more network.
All right, so this is already an interesting episode. I'll fill you guys in later in the post-production, but it's been an interesting ride already.
A Scooby-Doo episode.
Yes, it's going to be incredible for sure. A lot of editing on my end, and I love that. Okay, so the way I kind of wanted to frame a lot of the conversation was in terms of like considering that we are made in the likeness and image of God, and therefore a lot of what we do, if we kind of have our noose in that direction, we're trying to clean our noose. We're trying to keep God as our GPS direction, as how we go and create music, art in general. So I wanted to like kind of use and talk about the concept / principle of logos spermatico. How, like, with a lot of secular artists, like we can give examples like Ozzy came up privately, well, Sabbath did this and that. Sometimes you listen to like bands and they're supposed to be like whatever they're supposed to be, but all of a sudden they're dropping little seeds in there where you're like, okay, that didn't come from just anywhere. That came from God. Can I get you guys to rap on that?
Yeah, I mean, the reality is that God is, and there is. I mean, that's one of the funny things about the kind of dichotomy of secular versus non. We all understand it, right? We all use it, but if you really break it down, everything belongs to God, and so I think understanding that helps a person to then begin to remove the dichotomies. Like for me, I just always see and I try to teach, my spiritual children, it's about removing the dichotomies in life, not just religiously and spiritually, but just in life in general. Because the dichotomy of, this is of the world and God has nothing to do with it it's a false dichotomy. Everything is relating one way or the other. And when you have that understanding running in the background, then what's interesting is that you learn something very quickly about God, which is he loves speaking through donkeys. He has no problem. In fact, many times he'll use the unconventional, mouthpiece. And I think he does that to humble us. He does that because we oftentimes, if we're expecting to hear from God in the expected sources, there's a certain kind of filter and there's a certain kind of callous and there's a certain kind of vanity that we want to put on that doesn't allow us to actually hear from God. But when God comes surprisingly through something, you're taken aback and then you're actually able to see God more clearly. It's very simple in the sense that Christ came as a humble servant and not as a glorious tyrant. That alone kind of proves that method, that alone proves that that's the method that he prefers. Not because, if nothing else, because of us. because he knows how we are. He knows he knows our weakness. He also knows our pride. And so he does what he needs to do to reach us. And I think that's one of the key ways to actually reach us.
Neil, sorry, before Father goes, I'm going to drop this next one just so I can get his input, and then we can kind of flush it out right after that, if that's okay with you, Neil.
Yeah, for sure.
And it kind of ties into that, so it kind of sets you up, Neil, for like just doing one of those amazing riff rants you do, which is, I love them. I love them. So I wanted to ask this publicly so that I could be corrected if I'm using wrong terminology, Father, so I didn't check with you beforehand. Is it okay, or how would you change the phrasing of this to say, I'd like to start approaching my music as a sonic icon? What would you say about that? Like a sonic icon?
Yeah, it sounds cool. I think that it's problematic in the same way that a lot of people present something as an icon and it's not really an icon, because, an icon isn't just like, oh, I drew a picture of Jesus and that's an icon, right? But at the same time, there are people who have too rigid of an idea and category of what an icon is, and therefore they can't see certain icons. So there's a real path there, no pun intended. So I think the key thing to a sonic icon is love, to be really frank with you. I think that if there's love involved, and primarily love of God, and then, love of the other, those two things will lead someone into a discovery of what a sonic icon would look like. Because we of course, we have the music of the church, and that is the sonic icon already in existence, but I think there's something to play with.
I love that. Neil, just before you, Father, as Neil's going, if you have to flash, just
I could go fast. He gave some good stuff to jump on there. Yeah. Well, first I was thinking of when you answer your first question, I kept thinking of Gideon's army, and God wants the victory to be his, and because that's where the real source is. When we think it's us, where it's pre-lust, it's self deception. What things are we using that we truly made ourselves from the beginning? But when we talking about music and the logos, like moving back around, this kind of incorporates both of your answers. You have to, if someone wants to make music that has to do with like the idea that it exposes something about God. It brings God to you in that moment a little closer, a little broader. Like you've made it into something into something two-dimensional. You have this narrow definition, and music can kind of push past those boundaries for people or whatnot. The problem is that there's an aspect for the Christian musician, there's an aspect and composer of picking up your cross daily, but in a noetic sense as well, not just in this, like when we think about and these things are fine to think about, just in the normal struggle, or even the lower aspects of my mind where I'm just trying to remind myself to be grateful. There's another pattern, like the cross itself is a pattern in which to see the world through, like that it exposes that there's these four dimensions to it. And there's a way to see the heavens and the earth, and the left hand and the right hand, and these things connect. So when we go out in the world, we have this problem all the time, is that we tend to think things are important that other people are looking at with a lot of interest and really working to move towards. Like there's this little brain hack you can do to people, where if you're on a city street and you look up at something for a while and someone next to you looks up at it, other people will start looking up to see what you're looking at. This is how the world functions. Our sense of value comes through, especially through capitalism, in the sense that like the things that people find are most important, supply and demand, that this is what actually makes something valuable. So the thing is, the artist has to begin to escape that in their perspective and integrate that into the actual way they see and act in the world. It can't be something that we hold just kind of gnostically and separately. It has to be embodied, but it also has to be, you can't go on seeing the same world outside the window you used to, especially as we grow up and we become let's say, more scientifically minded or something like that, or more rational. We can't lose that reasonability that understands that there's a bigger story going on outside. It's not about our secondary goods. It's not about the things that we just want. It's about meaning and purpose. And so for the artist, if they're going to want to include all these things besides the moment where they sit down to actually write and then try to imply that pattern, you have to live the pattern, or it's going to feel like when you try to use it, it's going to feel like propaganda or like a cheap suit. It's going to wear you. So that's the only thing I can say, is that you have to get up every day. And listen, it's a glorious thing to do. It's a glorious thing to have your mind opened up and to begin to see the world through the lens of purpose. It's not like what I'm saying is a chore at all. In fact, that if you can just have the discipline to escape your normal sensory input and way of seeing the world in a higher way, you're going to reap the benefits, whether you're a songwriter or not, for that, because this is what we're trying to attach. We're trying to reattach the heavens and the earth. I'm sorry, that took a little longer than I wanted to for Father Turbo's time, but
that was awesome.
That was great.
Awesome. I told you, Father, this is the first time you've talked to Neil, Father?
No, it's my first time. That's great.
I told you, he's pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Embarrassing me. Okay.
All right, Father. I want to respect your time, Father, so we'll just say goodbye.
I apologize.
No, we got a good talk. I'll hit you up, Father Turbo. We need to exchange contact. We need to do something. That'll be fun.
Please do. Let's talk, Neil.
Yeah, awesome. Great.
God
getting to
bless
meet
you, Father.
Take care, guys. Thank you.
Take it easy.
Okay.
Bye.
Neil, that was I love that response. That was really good. Like, you hit a lot of cool things there. I love the way when you do that, because I said it before, but I'll say it again. You'll pack a lot of information in your little riffs, but the thing is, it's so well organized that it kind of leads to a bigger question, which is usually not a common thing. I do this a little bit, I do this often, and I have a lot of conversations, and I find that you really build on things. So keeping with the conversation, and I won't keep you that much longer. You just got me thinking about a lot of stuff. I know some of the projects you're working on, future projects, based on a lot of the things you just said. How is that, like, I hate to use the word evolution, just in case people start feeling, but how does this evolution occur for you? Because a lot of the projects you're talking to me, told me about privately, there's clearly a huge jump in your approach.
Yeah, well, let's just talk about the content from a spiritual approach. Can we do that?
Absolutely.
Okay, so Dirt Poor Robins has been, up until this point, pretty much like a musical form of apocalyptic literature. And what happens is, like, when we're talking about integrating things, we look at the world. Let's say you look at the news cycle. Like, I kind of watch the news cycle from a distance. I don't really look at it through a political lens, more from, like, I don't know, this is a terrible way to say it, but like a soothsayer, in the sense that you're like trying to figure out, you try to see around corners, like what's coming next. And certain patterns will be more troubling than others. Certain patterns seem positive, like, oh, that seems like a step in the right direction. Something as simple as, like, oh, good, home values are going up in my area, from, like, this TikTok trend is terrible. Like, there's all those kind of things. And these things kind of function as, like, a temperature. You kind of stack up in your mind. It's like, what's the temperature of the world? What's the directionality of the world? So with Dirt Poor Robins, when we go to think of an idea, it comes out in the form of a story that is sort of like integrated into it, the problem and the solution that we're currently in. So I think that's, although most of it's done by intuition, I think that's what we were trying to do in the end. There's a part of me now that it feels like we need to do something a little different, because I feel like more than ever we're sort of in, whether it's just an apocalypse that, like, something's ending one way or another. And so I feel like we're in it. So at the moment in it, I want to reflect on the thing that allows you to stay above it more than getting people to recognize the thing itself. Because I think at this point, if you don't recognize that there's some kind of spiritual battle going on in the world, I wouldn't know what to tell you. I wouldn't know what to tell. I'm just going to have to wait for you to get more frustrated and run out of answers, and then come back looking. Because if you can't tell it this time, so we do feel a need to help people find themselves in God. This world is the best explanation of the world we find. You find in Orthodox Christianity. This is a grand wedding. This is, this is we're the bride of Christ, if you want to look at it that way, which I think is the perfectly right way to look at it. But in this world, there's all of these secondary things. There's all these mistresses that attract our attention, these sirens that pull us away to our doom. And it's not just letting people know that that's happening. I want to hopefully give people a little more to anchor themselves to in the future in our project. So someone who, let's say, was part of the same tradition we were, our tradition similar, could sink their teeth into it and hold strong against the constant. I mean, what's coming as far as what people are going to be offered, even just through technology, you can already see it happening. The kind of power you're being offered, that's already looking bad for someone's soul, and it's already looking bad for people's souls, like what's going on with social media and AI and whatnot. It's going to offer you something that's so tempting that the only solution for this substitute is what is actually real. Is the actual real. And so I want our music to be more real than ever. So that's our plan moving forward. In fact, we're even going to do side projects now. So Kate and I are talking about doing something that's directly a spiritual reflection, that's not as hard hitting as Dirtpool Robbins, and maybe a chance to kind of explore for fun on the musical side, simpler arrangements that do less but say more. And and keeping Dirtpool Robbins in this kind of mindset. But I am sort of feeling the rock and roll in Dirtpool Robbins right now, because in the sense, like, what Justin's not here to talk about it, but like the last true rebellion, like the the rebellion against the thing that wants you to deny your own soul, like your own spiritual existence. This is a terrible experiment. It's been run for a long time in civilization. It's not going well. In fact, we all know, if you want to get into the argumentation of it, there's no way to anchor even a right or wrong claim to anything without a God who's overseeing it and justifying it. Otherwise, it's just our own preferences. So people are unmoored and buoyed, and they're so far away from this wedding, like the wedding we see in the Gospel of John, where the wine gets better as it goes along. It's the opposite of the entropy of life. And so, I mean, as a musician, can I help people do that? Well, some people tell me we do. So that's all I know. And honestly, my own experience, sometimes I'll have like spiritual and like personal breakthroughs, even in the process of creating. So we're gonna do that. I'm going to just lean into that and deal with the downside of that, in the sense that we do appeal to left-leaning people. Theater kids, they're under a very different narrative and explanation than life it is. I don't think it's the right one. I do have feelings for them, because they're in their situation. There's what they think are well-meaning adults who are trying to protect them, telling them all the wrong things about life. And, I can't be mad at them for that. I have to, have some kind of compassion for them, but I also have to understand, some of the people that are inviting me on their podcast, they're not going to like. And, and they're not going to understand why, and it's going to mean something very different to them. So, as we make this sort of transition, I need more support, from as much support as we can from spiritual people, spiritually minded people who are like, yeah, we get it. That, like, sure, that the culture has put certain ideas behind a paywall. A paywall where you have to understand that you're going to be called a racist, you're going to be called a fascist, you're going to be called all these things to move beyond it. And they've set that wall so far away from what those things actually are that you just have to be willing to take the hit, or otherwise you can't help. You can't help. You can't say anything. I think people are under. I think people are in worse shape than ever before, and God help us. Hopefully, music can play a part in making things better. And our lives deeper.
And to those left-leaning fans, if they're watching this, there's a lot of love for you guys. And I know that from a lot of the artists that I deal with, this is a concern. A little bit less now, because things seem to be far more obvious. And a lot of these, let's call them left-thinking people, have a lot of questions that are not being answered by their own camp. I'm not trying to make that distinction of the same, but it's true, right? And
well put.
When they see, like yourself and Kate, a good representation of artists who happen to be Orthodox, they might start going, okay, well, I want my life to kind of go like how their life is going and how they deal with problems. So it actually sparks a conversation. I think it's a perfect time to start those conversations with people like that. So they're already introduced to your music, they kind of know your background, and then all of a sudden they start to see this new component, not new, but like it's a little bit more out there. They're going to start coming to you guys and asking you guys questions. So I think a lot of the musicians and artists out there have that responsibility, and I think it's a perfect time to make plant those little seeds where someone you know what I mean. How do you feel about that?
Well, so it's funny too, because we can talk about these things in two ways. Like I have my goals for mankind, like that I think are Christian and that are being reformed, and that I'm always being exposed that maybe I'm clinging on to some vain things for myself, and those things are being flushed out. And I go to confession, and the routine. And so we're trying to do better, because I don't think I can really make music that does a thing I want it to do. So it really comes from inspiration first. So, but at the same time, it'd be unfair for me to say that I don't have a hope for people listening to it. Although I don't think that's where it comes from. But what we're talking about here, like when we're talking about, like, let's just say the current zeitgeist, and yes, the cultural tide is changing, where you can talk about certain things, and that there seems to be more of a curiosity towards God, and there seems to be less of just a flippant dismissal of these things. At the same time, we can't forget how the algorithm functions. There are people that are not aware that has happened at all in the world, and are utterly shocked by the brazenness of people to come out and say things that they are supposed to be off the list of things you can say, bring up true things that are supposed to be unmentionable because the implication is too bad. So the reminder I have for anybody listening who finds himself in like a really politicized camp is that these political leaders, we can even take something like just the LGBTQ plus stuff, is that all their leaders were like political leaders. And these were people that did not believe or espouse any of these things just a short period of time. Now, there's been no scientific breakthroughs. There's been nothing but like they can't be just dismissed as like this post-mortem kind of junk science about the subject. But we really haven't gotten to the bottom of it. It's like, in the biological sense, we haven't really got to the bottom of it in the psychological sense, because there's certain things you can't even question. Like sometimes when I talk to people, they want me to know that they were born this way. And I'm like, well, you can't, like, there's no way to know that. Like the best thing you could know is that you've always felt this way, and you could say that and be true. I don't know what your actual experience is, but the problem is the people they've been leaning on for answers, who told them what the future was going to look like, were manipulating them for political reasons. They had no concern in this, and they've abandoned it. Like the whole last election, like the Democrats did not run on these things. They just hid it, because you who've been told that you're their priority are just another way to grab votes. And what they've told you has not been helpful, and it's not helpful for your future and your happiness and your peace. So that's the problem, is all these things are behind a paywall where you say these kind of things, and it's like, oh my gosh, this person hates me at the core of my identity. I'm like, if some politician has convinced you that your sexual identity is your core identity, that person is not your friend.
True.
Like that person is not. True. I spend most of my time not in a sexual identity in my life. I know this, and hopefully you spend most of your time not having to exhibit, like, there's a masculine and feminine idea that's not sexual, that's more role related. Yes. That's fine. Yes. So, but these things are so, they're so hard to talk about. Like even just things I just said right now, they can just someone could just clip something and put together a bunch of clips, and they're on Reddit. People have done it to us, and you kind of wish you could just sit down with everybody in person, because like I think we have like a real radar in person. Like you can tell, this person actually, like, whether it's annoying or not, you can tell like dad actually cares. Absolutely. So, so that part of it, I hope comes through, but I can't control that. So I just have to let it be what it is. But we're not going to apologize for disagreeing with the narrative that's been shoved down everybody's throat for the last 10 years. It turned out terribly for everyone. Yep. It turned out terribly, and it's being reversed, and you're going to have to come to terms with that, whether you think it's me who's doing it or Christians who's doing it, or it's just, the fact that the world does not produce fruit in certain patterns. Like it's an inevitable reality. Correct. And if you're mad at reality itself, you're missing the assignment. So, let's talk about this more in the future, but this is kind of what we're dealing with as we're kind of like trying to make some things we think would be more helpful or more in our hearts and our music, more explicit. It's going to be met with what it's going to be met with. So we need support from people.
The only thing I'm going to add to that, and not really add to it, but kind of something that helped me along the way, and actually it was something that I would constantly say. I think I've publicly said it a couple times before coming back to Orthodoxy, and it seems more relevant now that I'm back, come back to the faith, is they always want you to concentrate on what you are rather than who you are. It's always like what are you? Are you this? Are you male? Are you female? Are you black? Are you white? Or other stuff? And then because that's how they're going to manipulate you. It's as simple as that, without asking the question, who are you? Like, where do you come from? What, like, even if it's a secular person, like we have our answers as Christians, but like, who are you, like, at the base of it? And if someone kind of looks at life from that perspective, the what is less important, and therefore it doesn't manipulate you as easy.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think that, and we wish that was the case. But we're coming to a point where people are going to have to decide if they want to know who they are. They can't be a part of that world. Like you can't. It's like, how am I going to go and like let the news cycle stir me up every day and be in charge of what's happening in my life? So like this is a really weird thing, but have you ever been in like a deprivation space where there's like very little sensory input, you can't see anything? You think differently in those spaces.
So true.
True. So like the context of what's in my room will spawn thoughts. We don't think about it because we're always in a room somewhere with stuff, so we don't think about it. But what we put in front of us will inevitably bring up a certain type of thought and conversation. Just like if you watch, exactly. Icons would be a great example of how to work against that. Whatever is pure, whatever is good, whatever is holy, think on these things.
Yes.
And so, if you don't have an active spiritual life in the church with the actual mysteries of God and the grace, you're going to try to make up for it with political action in the current zeitgeist. There's you're going to think the only way to change the world is to engage in these things and get mad about them and have arguments. But just look back at the last 10 years and see what good you actually did thinking like that. Even as well-intentioned, maybe it's a great cause. Maybe it's a cause like maybe you're pro-life and you're like, I want to save as many babies as I can. I think that's wonderful. There's a way to engage with that idea politically that's just not going to work for you as a Christian, because it's going to ask you to play God and force an outcome. And this is not, the beautiful thing about so the bad thing about what's being built and what's coming in this sort of like total technological system of control is that as much in the past as we've been disgusted by cult leaders or manipulative leaders who are just greasily baiting people in and making them think they're getting one thing and taking another, or companies that sell a drug that actually kills people, but there's people willing just to make money off it, even though they had some sense of research before the drug was released. These are all things that are actually out there in the world, and we're going to have to become savvy to and pull away from if we want to have an actual life in the church and in Christ. And actually, like, people are on the self-discovery journey, the one who sat down and sculpted you. Like, I think that's the place to go, and that you can have an actual embodied relationship. But if you aren't a part of a church with actual sacraments and actual grace, and I'm referring to the Orthodox Church, you're going to struggle to make up for that. These things are going to be a temptation. You're going to be tempted to just try to borrow from a culture, like Martin Shaw says, that doesn't care for you, that doesn't care for what you believe. You're going to borrow from that culture, and you're going to try to integrate it, and you're going to try to make up with an emotional experience for that can only be satisfied in communion with God. So how can I hide these things for people? How can I go out and just talk to people and help them think I'm helping them with any kind of problem in their life that's real? And when we haven't addressed the rudimentary baseline problem, is that there's a separation in the heavens and the earth, and this is what we're going for. That God's made a way to reconnect these things.
You put a smile on my face. Clearly, you just nailed it, man. I fully agree, and I think that people need to hear what you just said. So I'm going to definitely make a clip out of that, because that kind of sums it up well. It also shows love for those that disagree, and actually poses a question for them that they need to answer and kind of consider. An open consideration. I think that it's marvelous. Neil, I'm not going to take up any more of your time. Please, anything you have coming up, anything you want to plug, go for it, and we'll wrap this up.
We got a few things coming up. Well, I imagine this probably won't air in time. We're going to be at Father Josiah's marriage conference singing in Riverside, California at the end of this week. So if this doesn't air in time, well, maybe you can look it up online. Maybe there's a clip. And outside of that, John Heers has his Art of the Automata event coming up in first weekend in November. If you've got the money, it's a fundraiser, so it's an expensive ticket. I think it's like $3,200 for a couple, somewhere in that range. But it's at a beautiful, all-inclusive private resort in the Keys. Is private because he rents out the whole thing, and we have these wonderful liturgical dinners and feasts together, and we grow very incredibly close. Jonathan Peugeot is going to be there, Andrew Gould, myself, and Kate. These are one of the highlights of our year every year, getting to do this event. So if you want to look that up, the Art of the Automata, you can find it on First Things Foundation, I think it's .org, or you can put a link for that in the comments. And then finally, the conference I've invited you to. Man, I just invited Father Turbo earlier. Everybody's coming in for this. Like, never mind the speaker list, just the people that will be there. It's going to be such a fun hang. But there's the Athens and Jerusalem conference coming up at my church, St. Nicholas Russian Orthodox Church in Bunnell, Florida. Mm-hmm. And that's got Metropolitan Jonah's coming in, Jay Dyer, David Patrick Harry, Justin Marler's going to be at it. Kate and I are singing at it as well. We just got added. There's a lot of other people. I don't want to say their names because I'm not 100% sure if they're coming in, but they're supposed to be staying with us. So, it's going to be such a rad event. But in general, I mean, one of the things we're considering and talking about, because I want to talk to you about it when you're down here, I want to build an artist community down here. I think Florida's a spot for it. I think this church is a spot for it. I think there's already a good collection of people going. I'd love to make a place where that artists can have a liturgical experience and let that flourish into the world. And we mentor each other in this thing. We like an iron, like it's cliche, but it's not. It's scripture. It's iron sharpens iron. It's because it's real. Yep. Is that if I get together around other people who are having who are pious and having spiritual insights and talented, we're going to learn from each other, and it's going to make us better, even in a healthy, competitive way. So, yeah, that conference I think is November 20th and 21st. So please come down to that, shake our hands. It's super cheap tickets, $50. Pull up. A lot of people are getting Airbnbs down here. We're stuffing a lot of people in houses that are friends of ours. We've got our house filled up already. It's going to be a blast. So that's what I promote. But outside of that, just follow. Dirtpool Robbins can always use your streams. We really appreciate that. Of course, we're not asking for sympathy streams like it's some kind of charity where hungry children will suddenly eat if you stream our music. But check it out and see if you like it at all, because we work really hard on it either way, and
you do.
And we do it as an act of love. So,
well, we'll continue supporting you guys, and I most likely will be there. And I'm really looking forward to coming down to Florida, meeting you guys all in person, and seeing where this all goes. And it seems like we're all kind of working on similar projects. It's really cool to see if we can unite them all together. So, Neil, thank you for your time. Always a pleasure speaking with you, sir. It's
man, that was great. I love your channel.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you.
I'm here all the time. So when does this air?
Thank you for watching this all the way through. Really appreciate you guys doing so. Now, we've just launched our school, which we've talked about earlier. We've just launched our record label, Spoon Records. Told you about that in the beginning. If you'd like to help support what we're doing and things that we have planned for the future, we do need some help trying to get the money for the 45s, so we can get them all printed properly and all that stuff. Join school. You can also get access to the exclusive content I mentioned halfway through, which is being a fly in a wall in a room where you get to hear Father Turbo, Neil, and myself have a conversation as well. Uploaded now currently is a really good, really awesome clip of Cyprian from the Royal Path talking about the end of the world and stuff. I will be putting out the full episode with my conversation with Cyprian minus that little chunk, because that'll only be on school, because we touch on some subjects that I don't want to put on YouTube. So if you go join school now, there's a lot of other perks. We can talk about that at another time, but you will get access to that exclusive content and some record label stuff, and you get to help support us. And we also pay our artists well. We'll tell you more about that in a future update. But supporting our school project and all of that helps support the record label and everything we have coming up. Anyways, God bless you guys. Thanks for sticking around. Love you. We're to Big Bird again.
I didn't get involved in the occult because I wanted to hang out with the devil. I got involved with the occult because I was searching for the truth.
When I sent you the message, I'm like, what's on your mind? And your answer was, the end of the world, what it means. You want to go into that a little bit?
Sure. As far as we know, we have never had a global corruption that required global repentance, except in all of these ancient stories, because the flood was global. And when they built the Tower of Babel, what do we know about the Tower of Babel? Now we're about to go full circle. We're about to go full circle, brother.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Because currency is a language. The meter is a language.
Wow, all right. Whoa. That's so awesome. You did full circle. Yo, that's crazy. Yeah, dude. That's so true. Oh, wow. You blew my mind right there, sir. Well done. Wow.
Okay, I went out into the distance to the end of the world, and then we came all the way back to where we started. And so for me, mission accomplished.
Like the best ending too. I'm leaving all of this in right down to where I push this button. Boom.